being a melee and having to cast something where you have to stay still while being a melee is strange. All right, Driney and Myth. We're not going to do a super long thing. We already talked about the class tree. This is going to be legit like 10 to 15 minutes of you guys, if you want, talking about what you want to see in the Holy Paladin spec tree, what you noticed in the Ret and Prot, similar things that you think should be avoided in Holy specifically, and what abilities you want to see and what abilities you don't want to see. You guys have the floor.
Just based off the theme of the Ret tree and the Prot tree, it's Holy's most likely going to be a mix of Legion, BFA, Shadowlands talents, pretty much guaranteed at this point. And it's probably going to be Holy Power too. I was hoping to get it Holy Power, but that's probably not going to be a thing. But I think it's either going to be a playstyle of BFA, which was just Holy Shock spam, or Shadowlands, which is, Crusader Strike off cooldown. You don't really cast at all. You're kind of just pressing, Crusader Strike and Holy Shock off cooldown to generate Holy Power, since, the Infusion of Light is not really worth pressing, since you're not doing any damage. But yeah, I just hope there's, a mix of either a ranged paladin or a melee paladin, like a tree that goes like down towards a melee side, or a tree that goes down towards like a ranged Infusion of Light side. Yeah, that's just my main gripe with Holy Paladin right now. It's probably me either one or the other going into Dragonflight.
Yeah, I think another thing to talk about too is how do you guys feel about old casting Holy Paladin, no Glimmer, versus current melee Holy Paladin? I think absolutely what is going to exist on this tree is there's going to be the ability to spec into both, but it's hard for me to imagine that a casting Holy Paladin, at least as it used to exist, could ever really even be functionally good. So how do you guys feel about those two things specifically?
I feel like personally a big problem with Holy Paladin, or at least why it feels bad to play sometimes, is that you're spending a lot of GCDs on abilities like Crusader Strike and now Judgment that aren't contributing a lot of healing, right? Just to build up to like this big large heal, and there's not enough like healing in between. So I feel like in a sense you don't really need like Holy Paladin to be a full caster, right? If you look at like even Nyalotha with the old version of Infusion of Light, your Holy Light was such a quick cast that you were able to cast that like in the middle of a melee or in the middle of a fight. And even just having that ability just like grant a Holy Power, right? So you're casting globals to build up to your big heal that are like quick to get off, so you're not standing in range having to just spam slow heals, but also generating Holy Power to kind of work towards the rest of like the kit and the playstyle, I think would kind of help that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think for like race to rule first playstyle, like if Holy Power is going to be in Dragonflight, I really have a hard time seeing us, not doing like the whole range healer. Like I feel like we're just going to be, casting Crusader Strike again, Judgment, the same playstyle we've been doing this entire expansion. But I guess we're going to have to wait and see what they do to Infusion of Light, because it's going to be hard to swap to that, playstyle until we see it.
Yeah, and I mean it needs to be something where like you're incentivized to cast those abilities, right? To cast Flash of Light or Holy Light, that it's worth casting them, which it currently is just there's no reason to do it, right? And they also need to kind of flow well in melee, right? So you're not just sitting there casting like a 2-second heal in melee, just hoping nothing targets you or is under you.
How do you guys feel about the Diva Aura and like Red Aura thing, right? Like every paladin you bring past your first one, like the first one is bringing the raid buff, and then the second one is, I don't even know about the power level of this, but it looks like it'd be like decently more powerful, right? Like even forget about the deaths, just getting a Seraphim for 6 seconds every 30 seconds. How does that increase the power level of your class?
It's definitely nice, just a nice little free boost of damage and healing. But I mean, like as of right now in farm on my Paladin, if Myth's in, I'm sitting on Red Aura the entire fight until like I have to Diva like 5 seconds before, and as soon as Diva's over, I'm swapping straight back to Red Aura. And I'm sure Red Pally is just our auto on Red Aura. I mean, this late in the farm, so I think with 2 Pallies on the raid, it's definitely nice to have that option. But it would also, like I was listening to the Red Pally conversation about Aura Sack, and it'd be nice to have another option to go there. I mean, because
for Holy as well. Okay.
Yeah, if Aura Sack was a thing, then like 100% of the Holy Pally would be running Aura Sack, and the Red Pally would probably be running Diva Aura or Red Aura if needed.
That's exactly what I was gonna say too, because I was listening to like the end of the Ret conversation. I think Aura of Sacrifice would be like fantastic, even if it's just like a lower on the tree. It was fun to play. It was really good, and I mean, it allows that, right? It allows a Ret Paladin or a Prop Paladin to be in and have Diva, and not just have like this entire concept of Aura is just wasted because you have more than one.
That is really cool. The only issue I see with that is that if Aura Sack is actually that nice, I wonder if it's like you just have to bring 2 Paladins now instead of 1, and it's kind of compounding on the same problem where there's just so few raid spots and so many things you can bring to where you need both. Although I really doubt you would actually use both. It's definitely not as good as like Devo, for example. Actually, how does it calculate damage? Like, do you take 10% of the damage taken by allies within 10 yards, even like all in one hit? Like, what happens if like the raid gets hit all to 10% and 20%?
It won't work if you fall below that threshold. Like it'll stop.
So it's like Will the Necropolis then. Someone in chat says Paladin has 3 specs. Why wouldn't you need 2 of them? Why is it a problem? Well, I mean, apply that to every class in the game. Apply what you just said to every single class. Okay, well, DK has 3 specs. Why would it be a problem if you needed 2 of them? If you start filling out a raid comp needing 2 specs of every class, what about the 3rd spec of those classes? What about everyone else? You know, that's like ridiculous. I just think Holy Paladins have a spot in a raid right now. And if they've done anything well in this game, it's that the tanks and healers, which there are much less of them than DPS specs, they all play very, very differently than one another, and they heal differently. And Paladin is the best example of that. It like no other healer comes anywhere close, like the way Paladin heals the raid. And I think that's really cool. I think if they added like the casting variant, I feel like that would kind of also, like if it was just a faster Holy Light, a way to like generate holy power outside of Crusader Strike, it could also give you more spot healing as well, right? With obviously the choice of sacrificing damage to do that. I think it's potentially a really cool idea.
I also think if they also bring back Maraud's, like I want to say the casting version's probably gonna be dead, because I mean Maraud's is just so strong, and like it's very unique, you know, healing playstyle compared to like other healers. Just a very strong, you know, triage heal.
Yeah. Also, any melee spec in the game, including DPS, that has to cast spells in melee, that feels weird. Being a melee and having to cast something where you have to stay still while being a melee is strange.
It's also going to be awkward because if you're just like a full-on caster, but then you still have parts of your kit that are melee, are they just going to count you as a melee still then? So you're just sitting there casting all of these different spells? Like, I don't think that would really work with how they've like kind of shifted the class design. I think just simply like what I would like is just infusion is worth pressing, and it's something quick, right? It's something quick, so it's not punishing to cast a melee, and then it, like I said, it contributes to your Light of Dawns.
Yeah, I mean, I could see casting I mean, it should be a playstyle next week when we see it, because Judgment now generates a holy power, so that's a ranged spell, which is, you know, a nice bonus if infusion of light is buffed or not, and a casting paladin is viable.
What do you guys want to see come back in terms of like covenant stuff? So I think Divine Tolls in the other 2 trees, you can almost guarantee fan favorite that it will return for holy.
Yeah.
What about the other
Divine
spells?
Toll comes back, I don't see why it would be in each of the spec trees. It should just be in the class tree if it's in all 3 specs.
You could just remove like Dusk and Dawn and just put Divine Toll there, I feel, with maybe some like revamped like other talents in that area.
That's a really good point.
That would be 10 times more enjoyable.
I mean, I like all the covenants right now. Like Ashen, you know, everyone loves Ashen. Summer's a fun button to press. Necrolord's also very, very strong.
Okay, so let's talk about Ashen for a second before moving on to the other ones. So obviously, if they're to bring it back, a lot of people are worried that it like doesn't fit the theme of Paladin. They've brought back multiple conduits that were very Covenant themed, multiple Covenant abilities that were Covenant themed, and they just changed the theme of them. Like they just baked Condemn into Execute, for example. There's no issue with that. They like, for example, they could just make Ashen Hollow this like giant Consecrate looking thing, and it would be very Paladin like and whatever the fuck, right? My perception of Ashen Hollow is that the only reason it was widely disliked by a lot of the fan base of Paladin was because it was something that you had to choose and not have Divine Toll, where Divine Toll felt much better to play. So if they had Divine Toll like in the class tree, but Ashen was an option in the Holy Tree, if it just becomes a 1-point talent based on the fight, is that something you guys think would be bad?
I think it would be fine. I think another reason why people like Divine Toll so much, at least at the start of Shadowlands, was because Glimmer was a thing. There was a legendary that Shockbearer, which was really strong the first tier of the expansion, that also synergized with Kyrian. So like going into Shadowlands, like everyone speculated that, you know, Kyrian was going to be super strong with the synergy of the legendary and the talent. But yeah, I think Ashen, a 1-point talent in Ashen would be fine if they tune it correctly. I guess we'll have to see on the numbers on that.
I think other criticisms are that it's boring. It's just like a long cooldown, super powerful thing. But there's like a lot of classes in the game that would kill for a 1-point talent option to have you place it does a shitload of damage and healing. Like Ashen's just an insane ability, but also we talked about this earlier where Ashen Hollow probably got Paladin nerfed. And something interesting with these trees is, and they haven't even started the tuning yet because like half of the classes stuff doesn't even work. They don't even know where to begin with tuning. Is that some classes are going to need some baseline aura buffs or things that were nerfed changed back because they were nerfed because of Covenant abilities that no longer exist.
Yeah, I mean, I want the rank 3 wings. I think that was only a thing for Holy, right? I don't know if Ret and Prod also had the 30%, but they nerfed it because of the tier set from this last tier.
And then they nerfed the tier set too.
Yeah, I mean, if they don't change that going to Dragonflight, like I don't know, it's gonna. And if we don't have Awakening, which just gives us more wings, I'm also not a fan of that talent. It's gonna be interesting to see how Paladin plays with like low wings uptime. But yeah, we'll see. I guess.
Yeah.
There's so many things I want, but I'm just very.
What about the Necrolord ability? How did that play this tier? I feel like it would feel so much better if they undid that wings nerf as well, right?
Yeah, I mean that was really Necrolord is really only a thing for this last tier, and it only became a thing after people got the 4 set and the second legendary, because it just synergized so well with the 4 set and the second legendary, and we're gonna be losing probably all of that. So I mean it'll still be strong by itself if we just get it for like a free option, if it's not the complete bottom of the tree. But I mean I wouldn't mind Vankhammer, Ashen, or Divine Toll, I guess, being in the tree.
I'm kind of surprised that so many people like disliked Ashen, because I felt like I loved Ashen. Like I think just like Sylvanas last phase, when I pressed Ashen, I felt like so impactful. Like I felt so strong. Like no matter what was happening, I could keep the raid alive by myself, right? And maybe it needs to be a weaker version, or maybe it needs to be
if it's a
like
1 point option
altered
on the tree or like a heavily invested capstone, it has to be weaker than its most powerful point in this expansion.
And
no
I think
question.
I think it should be weaker too, right? So the entire kit is not this 4-minute window, but you actually have like more consistent power throughout your kit.
Yeah, I feel like if we had either Ashen or Aura of Sac, like those two spells are pretty similar, like healing wise, like just big raid cooldowns. I feel like having either one of those would be a nice addition going into Dragonflight.
All right, cool. Do you guys have any other things? The only other thing I wanted to mention is I'm trying to imagine what the Holy Paladin capstones are. You know, if they're not going to put in the general tree, which I love your all's idea to put Divine Toll over here, because why is it in the spec tree if every class has it and it's the same version in every class? And it even says it has a tooltip for all 3 specs in every single spec tree. It's weird, right? Like, what are the other things you guys want to see? Proc got Eye of Tyr and some Avenger Shield stuff. Rhett gets, Final Reckoning, Liadrin's Fury, Final Verdict. What are
40-yard Light of Dawn returns. I mean, right now it's what, 10 yards or 20 yards without Rule of Law? I mean, it feels pretty terrible to press, like on Schoolix, for example. Like, if you don't have Rule of Law, like, your Light of Dawn's not be reaching the range. Yeah, 15 yards. So, I mean, 40-yard, just a talent to just make it 40 yards would be a nice return to that spell.
I think one is going to be the Necrolord ability and a node that buffs it, and just made Paladin-like. And then if you have one more node of something you guys would like to see brought back to Paladin that has not been mentioned yet, what would that be? Could be Aura of Sac. We talked about that. It actually could, it could be a Holy Paladin only Aura of Sac thing for sure.
I would like Aura Sac. I think the easiest way to do it is just to give it to Paladin and then Holy, and then let other people get like Devo.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we're going to be keeping Holy Power, like maybe have a new Holy Power spender. Like me and Myth were talking about Eternal Flame from, was that Wall or something? Just something new. Yep. Like, I don't know. It's right now with Holy Power, it's just so boring. It's either Light of Dawn or Word of Glory. And in Raid, you're pretty much always pressing Light of Dawn. Like, you're hardly ever going to press Word of Glory unless there's a bunch of talents that synergize with it. But yeah, I don't know. Hopefully they add something new with Holy Power or just get rid of it. But it's probably too late for that.
I mean, if you guys have Holy Power synergistic stuff in your class tree and the rest of Paladin has Holy Power, it's 100% staying. It's not going away.
Yeah.
I mean, I would agree with you. I think BFA Prop Paladin without Holy Power was fucking sick. Like, I loved it. I actually prefer it to the current version. So, all right, cool. That's all we're gonna do. Thanks for hopping in. That I'll probably just put up, and hopefully some of that feedback gets through, and then we will talk probably maybe even since we might even do it like Tuesday night or something, and just have it not be as long because it's just you guys in the spec tree. Mm-hmm. So I have room to do those on Wednesday and Thursday. But that sounds really fun.
All right, sounds good.
All right, see you guys. Thanks for talking.
Later.
See you.
Whew, damn, that was a banger. Dude, that was fun, man. That was super, super, super fun.